Welcome to the High Rankings podcast, brought to you by Dispensary-Growth, the preeminent SEO agency only working with premium cannabis dispensaries. In our episodes, we bring you the most up-to-date strategies and tools for your dispensary's SEO game plan so that you can reach the top of the search engine rankings and capitalize on your growing organic traffic to increase your sales. A light-hearted mix of our daily lives and SEO knowledge will leave you laughing and informed so that you keep coming back for the next episode. Hello and welcome back to another fantastic episode of the High Rankings podcast. We're on episode 94 today. We are closing in on those triple digits. I know, it's crazy. We are post Super Bowl as we record this. And I'm going to tell you this. I was talking to my friend before the Super Bowl and I had 3 things on my wish list. 1, I didn't want the game to be a blowout regardless of who won, because that would mean that it's pretty boring and and you always want the Super Bowl to be like a close game, like a nail biter, like a,
Yeah.
unless it's your team that wins, in which case, whatever. 2, I wanted some really good commercials. And 3, I wanted a really good halftime show, and only one of those 3 things on my wish list happened.
The halftime show?
And I'm not taking anything away from Philadelphia. I like I said, I did not have a dog in this fight whatsoever. As a Philadelphia fan, I'm sure it was like the best game ever. But as a football fan, sort of, as an ish fan, I really wanted it to be a much closer game. The commercials, honestly, not one of them sticks out. Not one of them was like, oh, that was really good. That was funny. That would make me cry. Like nothing. Just absolutely nothing. And then the halftime show was banging. And I think Kendrick might single-handedly be responsible for bringing back flare jeans.
I was thinking that too.
And those shoes he had on were fire. I know they're Nikes, but they were fire. Yeah.
They're Nikes?
Yeah, they're Nikes. Because I was like, what are those shoes? I need those shoes. What are those shoes? Because they looked like they were square toe sneakers. And I am a sucker for square toes. So the day after the Super Bowl, I was like, what shoes did he have on? And they were Nike something. I can tell you because Nike Air DT Max 96.
I was thinking the same thing with those jeans. I thought game was so. Would have been cool to see a three-peat. Nobody on the East Coast went to work. To them was a federal holiday yesterday. But it was fun. We went to a friend's house. We were kind of talking about this before we hopped on here, hit record. Had a bunch of wings, had buffalo, barbecue, of course, air fried them. I think we had over 70 wings we brought to a friend's house. Oh, and then like some Hawaiian bread sandwiches.
Oh, I have my husband do those all the time. Hawaiian bread sliders.
Yeah. Hawaiian bread sliders. They were banging.
Dude, he always says to me, like, he'll be like, what do you want for dinner? And he's like, if you say sliders, I will murder you. Because you slice them in half. And then, so we use turkey because I don't eat beef. Grilled onions, turkey, and then plastic cheese. Solid. It's like one of my favorite things. Love them.
Didn't get too piled up. I had a couple of beers, just Ubered home, whatever, but didn't get too piled up. But it was fun. It was fun to get together. Hadn't seen friends in a couple of weeks, so that was fun. And the night before, Saturday night, go to dinner with girlfriend and went to this really good Thai place here in Denver. And I feel like seeing a show. I was looking at comedy shows. It was kind of past 9 p.m., so they're kind of limited. And then I found tickets to a burlesque show.
Ooh, yeah, those are fun.
I'd never been to a burlesque show before.
Yep, that's fun. This is a good time.
So, yeah, we buzzed over there. I wasn't sure. I called. I was like, do you have any spots left? Do you have any, seats available? I was like, yeah, you can. There's some spots available. Obviously, the best in the house are taken, but you can show up here if you're not too far away, and then we can show you what's available, and, you can make your decision. I was like, all right, we don't have anything better to do after dinner. Buzzed over there. We sat kind of not in the general, seated area. We kind of a raised level. When you walk up from the seated area, there's a balcony, a ledge where you can put your drink and everything. So we sat there. Great view of the stage. I thought we had great seats, especially for how late we were in. Sold out show. And that was fun. There are some very talented dancers.
Yeah, they put on a great show. I've been to a couple of burlesque shows. I think they're phenomenal.
It was pretty cool. It told the story of Greek mythology.
Which particular Greek mythology?
Well, the character Zeus, we thought was walking around beforehand, and then there's a Celtic dancer, and I kind of lost it from there. But it was fun. It was different. I wasn't sure what to expect.
Good time though.
Yeah, it was fun. Those dancers are extremely talented, especially like the aerial dancers, like those ribbons that they.
Yep.
What is it that they dance on or like swing from? What are those called?
Like you talk about the big long. They're not ropes, but they're ribbons, and they do acrobatics.
Yeah.
The ribbons and up the ribbons. Yeah.
Yeah, that.
The strength that they have in their bodies is like outrageous.
Yeah, like the core strength and everything.
Oh,
Like,
it's
yeah,
ridiculous.
that's gnarly. Yeah, so we did that. That was cool. She got pretty hammered, which is funny. Yeah, that was Saturday night. I think we just went to dinner Friday night. I might have watched a movie. I can't remember. That burlesque show was. I was going to say the Super Bowl would be the highlight, but the burlesque show was actually a lot of fun.
Yeah, Super Bowl. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not. I got no business analyzing football and all the rest of it, except to say that it just felt like the Chiefs forgot how to play football. Like, I mean, they sacked Mahomes 4 or 5 times in a row. I was like, what on earth? It's just like they just forgot how to play the game. It was bizarre.
How frustrating!
Go from that dominant to being that dominant to like literally just. It was like they just forgot how to play. I don't really understand it, but
yeah, that's tough, dude. That sucks. Anyway,
yeah, good times. What you got coming up this weekend? Anything exciting? Oh, it's Valentine's Day.
Valentine's also. So we record on Tuesdays. Tomorrow is the start of the Four Nations hockey tournament in the NHL, which is freaking awesome. So Four Nations, basically, well, not Olympics. It's a national team. So there's Four Nations. So as the name suggests, Canada, U.S., Sweden, and Finland.
They're weird countries to be picking, but
yeah, they just compete against each other, and it's to replace the All-Star game because nobody really cares about the All-Star game. So it's really cool because you get the best players in the world playing, actually competing. They actually want to play, unlike an All-Star game.
yeah.
They actually want to compete. They want to play, and I can't wait. See, like Team Canada is absolutely stacked. Team US has the best goalies in the world. Team Sweden and Team Finland have obviously like really, really good players. They play very different games, but that starts tomorrow night, Wednesday, and then I was just looking at places in the mountains to head to, like Keystone. Yeah, just get like a condo for a couple nights. Keystone Vale. I like Winter Park. Of course, Castle is there, but Avon, just places like that. And it snowed here, so it's gonna be nice and cold up there.
Bar.
Yeah, and cold here is like 10 degrees.
Yeah, it's a different cold than what we get.
Was this morning.
Sure. But I think we're coming into our warmer weather now, which means it will soon be boat time, and I'm excited. That'll be what I do every weekend. Well, I guess it's only February, so. But I have a trip coming up in a couple weeks.
Where?
To Savannah.
Oh yeah. This is so dumb. Like
It's not dumb. It's dumb because you're scared. Is why it's dumb. It's not actually.
Yeah, exactly. Like why would I go there to just be scared of like in a haunted ass bed and breakfast? Like
I'm not going to be scared. I'm going to be sleeping.
You're going to be scared out of your mind. You're going to be sleeping like 4 blocks away.
No, so when we were in Savannah and I went to my favorite bookstore, I bought a bunch of books on Savannah or like authors or basically Savannah based, right? And one of them is like about the history of like places that are haunted in Savannah. So I'm going to have to read that before we go, just so I'm like clued up on what's going on. But I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. I went and had dinner with my friend who I'm going to Savannah with. And so we were organizing, like planning the trip a little bit more. So I'm excited about that. But that's in a couple of weeks. But then I'm thinking by the time I get back from that, we'll almost be in March. And we should be into, the warmer weather. My husband went out on the boat last week. Mm-hmm. He had a work meeting with a couple of his guys, a work lunch on the boat. So, yeah, it'll soon be. I mean, really, it's boat weather anytime you want to go. But it's just, I like to not be cold. So, yeah.
Oh, God, the complaining out here, too.
I know, it's awful. It is awful. But, yeah, so that's happening. What else? I don't know if I have anything else to share. I don't think so. Super Bowl.
No favorite commercial?
No, like I said, literally not one stands out.
Anything stand now?
No.
One, this was years ago, but it was a Chrysler commercial, and it was kind of like the rebrand of Detroit. And
yeah.
I thought that was really cool. The end was a little corny, but yeah, that still sticks out to me. I thought that was cool.
My friend always says like she waits for the Budweiser Clydesdale commercials
Yeah.
because those are typically really good. But I know they had one with a baby horse in it this time around because and not that this was like a worthy standout commercial, but one thing that did make me chuckle was Harrison Ford did a Jeep commercial.
Yeah.
And he talks about how the Jeep is his car, and he goes, even though my name is, and he whispers Ford, like really quietly. The commercial wasn't that great, but like, yeah, I don't know. Put it this way. Obviously, I'm happy for the Eagles and their fans and none of that, but it's not going to be one of those Super Bowls that like everybody talks about for years to come.
Yeah, that Jets Super Bowl from a while ago was really good. I'm not really even that into football, but
Me either.
when big games like that, I think it's awesome when it's close, when it's when it's actually a game. Which
Yeah.
I'm hoping this hockey tournament is, and Canada doesn't just crush everybody.
Well, my season starts here in March. We have the unveiling of the cars happening later this month. I want to say it's the 14th, maybe, or 15th, 14th or 15th. And then if you watch Drive to Survive, which anyway, that's March 7th. And then, yeah, we'll be into the season. And so teams have started to put, I've seen Lewis in his Ferrari stuff. That's weird. And Carlos in his Williams stuff. That's also weird. So yeah, now teams are starting to ramp up their social media game a little bit. So season will be here before we know it, and I'm very excited about that. It opens in Australia this year, which sucks because it'll be at like 3:00 in the morning or something stupid. So I'll have to watch it later.
Yeah, I gotcha. Well, that'll be fun though. That'd be cool. Playoffs start, I think, mid-April. Hockey, I think, is it late April? Yeah, that sounds right. So anyway, winding down the season.
Also, I'm not a basketball fan, but all over my social media was this trade that the Mavericks did with LA. What's his name? Something Lucic or something. Anyway, all I got on this trade was that this guy has only ever played. I think he's from like Slovenia or somewhere. I'm so sorry if I'm getting this wrong to all of you fans. But anyway, he's like a much, much loved player in Dallas. And I guess everybody just thought he was going to be a franchise player. And he randomly, like overnight, Luka Don, I don't know how to say his last name, Doncic, I don't know. Anyway, he played for the Mavericks, and literally, like, basically overnight, they traded him to LA for one of LA's players. He didn't know he was going. He clearly didn't want to go. He thought he was going to stay in Dallas for his whole career. Apparently, he's this great player, and they traded him because they had concerns about his conditioning and, I don't know, his health or something. I think they thought like he needed to work out a bit more. I don't know. But anyway, the guy they traded him for from LA went to play, I guess he played in Dallas and hurt himself. So he's now hurt.
Oh, jeez.
At least that's what I could figure out. I'm like, this guy looked like absolutely like his heart had been ripped out of his chest and stomped on by a pair of size 15s. Like, just traded him, and he had like no clue it was going to happen. Nobody had any clue. So I don't know. I just think it's like crazy.
Is that real because of his conditioning?
It was something about his conditioning. I'm looking it up now to make sure I'm getting it right. But they traded him something about, I don't know. It was definitely his conditioning and something else. I don't remember the other word that they used, but it was, yeah. Basically, he needs to get his ass in the gym, was basically what it sounded like.
Interesting. I didn't know that. Well, it's not that I didn't know that. I just don't follow it at all.
But everything I saw was like, wow, that sounds absolutely bananas.
There's a big trade in the NHL. It's actually really working out for the Avalanche. Not so much for the other team, but he's one of the top players in the world. And yeah, he's not doing so well. Conditioning had nothing to do with it.
Oh.
But yeah, he's not doing so. I wonder if it's like a culture thing, maybe like a team fit. I don't know. I'll look at it. Like, I've of course heard of this player, but I don't know anything about basketball. So,
I feel like if it's a conditioning thing, you just go, listen, dude, you need to get back into shape or whatever it was. But I guess it was a 3-team trade, and so Luka went to Los Angeles, Anthony Davis went to Dallas, and Anthony Davis is the player that I guess just played for Dallas and ended up hurt. And everyone was like, how ironic that you trade Luka, who everybody loves from what I understand. You trade him because of his conditioning and his health, and then the guy that you end up getting is now injured.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I don't know. Everything I saw was like, man, I feel really sorry for this guy because nobody saw it coming. You know what I mean? And then everyone was saying that if Mark Cuban still owned Dallas, it would never, ever have happened. He would never let this guy go because I think he's just so beloved and like
Yeah.
he would never have let him go. But because the people that own it now are like, they're more focused on money, I guess. I think that was what it something down to. It says the Mavericks were motivated to move him because of his constant conditioning concerns. There had been significant frustration about his lack of discipline regarding his diet and conditioning.
I'm looking at these pictures right now, and yeah, he looks like he was just traded.
He just looks so heartbroken, which I get happens. Like it makes me think of Carlos Sainz when he found out he was, being booted out for Lewis. Well, you can understand that because Lewis is a 7-time world champion. Like, you know what I mean? Sorry, but if a 7-time world champion says he wants to come and play for your team or drive your car, it's going to happen. That's understandable, but we are not a sports podcast because clearly we don't know what the hell we're talking about. So we should move on to the things that we do know what we're talking about, which is not sports, unless it's Formula One and hockey, and then maybe we'll. Anyway, sorry about that really long catch up, but today this episode's more going to be focused for dispensary owners or for employees of dispensary owners who handle like marketing and SEO. So it's more focused for those listeners of ours, although anybody can listen. But just to give you a heads up of what kind of episode we're doing, we're going to be talking about reporting. How do you report your SEO to the owners or the higher ups or financial backers or anybody that you need to report your SEO results to? How do we report that? How often do we report that? What should we include in the report? And how do we successfully set up the back end of our websites and Google Analytics and Search Console in order to be able to give us the information that we're then going to use in our reports to whoever we need to report to? I will say Charlie's going to do a lot of heavy lifting in this episode because he is the man who does all of our reporting. He knows exactly the data that we include and how we set that up. So sorry, you're going to be hearing a lot about from him. You'll get over it.
We've got the KPIs to use and everything. Like we use our own like internal structure and everything, but like for the sake of like a marketing director or a stakeholder for a retailer, we can use a templated version of this data so that you can just make sense of it. How is it performing? How are people finding your site? What are they doing when a customer gets on your site? Are they checking out? Are they spending money? What products are they purchasing? Customer funnel, all of that can be made sense through this.
So we're going to go back to the beginning. So whether you are a new dispensary, whether you're a new website, or whether you're a dispensary who's really honing in and focusing on SEO for the first time, you need to make sure that you have your beginning data. So what we do typically when we bring on a new client is we will go, and you'll have to help me out a little bit here because I don't remember everything that we look at, but I know for sure we go to SEMrush and we pull any data that's useful on SEMrush. So for example, we'd pull their domain authority, how many keywords they're currently ranking for, where they sit versus their competitors.
Yeah, backlink profile.
Yeah. What else do you take note of at that point in terms of like your beginning data that you're going to use as a comparison moving forward?
How many keywords they're indexing, what keywords they're indexing, and then like 5 of their competitors as well. Because you don't have to have the highest ranking, highest performing website on the internet. It has to be the highest in your location.
Amongst your local competitors.
Yeah. So you want to get a benchmark of how you're performing amongst your competitors.
Okay, so other than like SEMrush or Ahrefs, what other information do you get and from where in terms of your like beginning data?
Google Analytics, and you see your sessions, like how many people have found your website from Google, from affiliate sites, Weed Maps, Leafly, whatever, and then direct traffic. And then Search Console, you can see like how many people visited from Google directly, what keywords you're ranking for, your top performing pages, and like your click-through rate and all that.
Does that only work if that's been set up previously?
Yes, you do have to set those up. So you have to do a domain verification. And if you have Google Tag Manager, that makes it easier, actually. You can set everything up through that. And you should have Google Tag Manager, because then you can track purchases with your menu provider like a Jane Boost or a Dutchie.
Okay, so if they haven't been set up prior to you coming on board, or you're a new website, or you're a new dispensary, that data won't be available to you because it literally doesn't exist. So that would be something that you'd need to set up further down the line.
Correct. Yeah. Set up Google Analytics and Search Console. Just look on Google how to register. I would have a separate account just for analytics, and then analytics, that account can set up your data platforms for you.
Okay. So let's say you've pulled up all your starting data, or if you're brand new, you've set up for when you move forward, being able to pull off your data. What are the top 5 KPIs that you would always include in an SEO report? What would you list those top 5 as?
Well, one is organic search traffic revenue. The whole end game of all of this is to increase your online sales, right? Your menu sales. So total revenue from organic search, that can be found under sessions. UTM tracking.
What is UTM tracking?
UTM tracking is like a piece of code that goes on your GMB, and the GMB is in your map pack. So like when you search dispensary near me and a map shows up on Google with like your top 2 or top 3 results, and you click on the GMB website, that website link should have a UTM code. And that way you can track the performance locally for your retailer.
Okay.
There's one, click-through rate in Search Console.
Yep.
And what keywords are being indexed in Search Console as well. You can track that like month over month. So like dispensary near me, dispensaries open near me, best weed deals, whatever those keywords are, you can find that in Search Console.
Of the 5, what do you think is the one that the owners or dispensary owners or shareholders, whatever, are going to care about the most? And also, what is the one that's going to have the biggest impact? Is that going to be total revenue? Or because most people, I always think back to this one client that we have who stands out, but most people care about how much money we're able to make them, right? So in that respect, I feel like total revenue, or at least from the organic traffic, would be the one that they would care about the most. But what stands out is this one client, and we've talked about him a couple of times throughout our podcast lives, where like we were running through the data and it was data. Kind of reminds me of Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Anyone? You're just running through it. And the minute that we showed him that he was crushing his competition was the minute he perked up.
Yeah.
He honestly couldn't have cared about anything else. Even we'd already gone over money and figures on organic traffic and blah, blah, blah. But the minute that he heard we were crushing his competition was like, boom, pinged up. Like,
yep.
So I guess that's what, like, of those things you listed, what do you think is the most important thing that we can tell dispensary owners? Or does it vary depending upon what they are looking for in that moment? Because to me, money is the be all and end all of what we're trying to do for clients, but they might not necessarily think that.
I would say it would be total revenue, and that total revenue generated from the SEO website.
And so the most effective way of getting that message across is what?
So total revenue can be found in Google Analytics. On the left-hand side, you go to reports, and then under lifecycle, click on acquisition, and then traffic acquisition sessions. And then it should be on the top. It says organic search. And if you scroll to the right, and if you have Tag Manager properly set up to listen for events like purchase events, like with Jane Boost or Dutchie or Mosaic, you scroll to the right, it says total revenue. Yeah. Then you can calculate how much SEO is making your dispensary per month.
And that really you think is, hierarchy of what they want, that's top.
Yeah, because there could be, like, let's say your retailer's been around for 5 years, but you're getting a bunch of traffic from, let's say if your flagship is in Kansas City and you're getting a bunch of traffic from like Montana and Vermont and Florida, like to your blogs. Okay, that's like cool. It can kind of add some domain authority, all right, but when you trim the fat on the website and you really nail down and like optimize your local SEO,
Yeah.
you will cut the fat from the website with like ancillary traffic that you don't need. So the number of people will decrease, but your conversion rate will increase. Thus, you will most likely have more revenue from SEO, and you can track it with that KPI.
I mean, that does make sense because really they also want to make sure that their money that they're investing into SEO, whether it's an agency or an employee, that it makes sense for them, that their ROI is in a good spot, that it's giving them what they want plus more. So there's that. The other thing I would say or ask is, I'm also referencing one of our clients, is sometimes a client will charge us with a very specific thing, like, hey, I really want to rank for this keyword in this city, right? I really want to rank for purple haze in Tampa, Florida, for example. Sometimes they'll give you something really specific, or they'll be like, hey, I'm opening up a dispensary in Fort Lauderdale and I need to be crushing every competition I have out there. And that's your task. Like if it's an MSO, for example. In that case, what's the best way of showing them, even if it's like a longer term project where you know it's going to take a while for you to crush the competition because they're new in that town or they don't have the same domain authority as a competitor in Tampa, for example? What would you use on your reporting to show them that you're making progress with the specific challenge they've given you, or that you've crushed the competition and you've fulfilled the request that they've? What's the best way of showing them that?
We use UTM tags. If you just Google UTM tag generator, click on that result, go to your GMB, put that tag onto your city page, and get that thing tracking from day one. And then you can see it's going to take some time, of course. Then you can see the performance of that respective city page. So if it's, what did you see, like Miami, for example?
Fort Lauderdale, for example.
Yeah, so Fort Lauderdale. So your Fort Lauderdale page that is on your GMB should have a UTM tag. And then in Google Analytics, you can track the performance of that UTM tag by going under your acquisition overview. And you can narrow down that specific UTM tag. A UTM tag is like a fingerprint. So you can track that fingerprint, that performance in Google Analytics. And you can also just go to your GMB account and then look at performance through the front facing of Google rather than the back end. So there's a couple ways. You can go into Google Analytics and look at your page and screen performance for that particular page as well. So there's a couple different ways, but I think the best way to do it is with the UTM tag. And that way you can track the performance locally, and that will most likely come from keywords like dispensary near me, Fort Lauderdale dispensary, best dispensary in Fort Lauderdale, et cetera, and then like product searches as well. That will get your product, your menu page, which should be appended to your city page. That will get that going.
So just to recap, KPIs, your Google business profile, the clicks that you're getting from that, organic search sessions, your click rate, your revenue, and then engagement rate, I think was the other one that we didn't go over.
Yeah. Engagement rate, yeah. You could see like who's actively interacting with your website. Like, are they scrolling? Are they reading? Are they clicking on different buttons? As the name suggests, engagement. Are they actually doing things on your website?
So those would be the 4 that you would concentrate every time you do a report. So 2 questions. How often do you recommend reporting back, whether it's a client or an owner or whoever? And 2, the most important question, how do you make this not boring? Because it's data, and we all know how I feel about data, but how do you present this in a way where it's concise, but yet it gives them everything that they need to know, which I understand those two don't necessarily coexist harmoniously, but also like it's going to keep your client or your owner engaged for the 30 minutes maybe that it takes to go over this.
Okay, so the first question was, how often should you report?
Yeah.
We report however often the client wants to see it. Usually it's once a month. It might be a little more when we first start, and then after a while they're just like, okay, you guys know your stuff, just make us more money. So generally it's once a month. If you're reporting internally to like stakeholders, I mean, we check the reports every day. just in case there's a crash or, Google being Google kind of thing. Internally, at least once a week, you can monitor, once you have everything set up, UTM tags, appropriate, listeners and everything through Tag Manager. Once everything is wired up and glued together, at least once a week.
Yeah. We don't report to the client once a week. Let's clear that. We talk amongst ourselves once a week, but we would never do a full-on report to a client once a week unless they specifically ask for it, but that's not likely. How do you present this information in a interesting and engaging way? Because data.
I'll tell you this, if you're talking to an owner, stakeholder, they won't find it boring for the most part. First thing would be to report on revenue. Are the efforts actually generating sales? And then you can go into like top performing pages, or you can ask the stakeholder or your client or, whomever, like, what specifically do you want to see? Do you want to see reports of different locations? Is there a new product, maybe strain or like some pre-rolls or something that you saw? Like, we can track the performance of that through the menu. Is there anything specific that you want to see? Like, we're working with the retailers expanding really quick in different states. So they're going to want to see performance of those new states, cities. So we have like specific tracking mechanisms for that.
I will say from like my experience being involved in like, obviously client facing role that I have, is that initially we'll do like once a month with the client. We'll get onto a Zoom, we'll present our report, PDF form or whatever. And initially it seems to be quite like in depth and we go through it quite heavily. And these meetings we do once a month can last quite a while. But the more time you spend with your client, the more you get to know what they want you to focus on of that PDF. So when every month we do the report, we always send the client the PDF after we've had the meeting with them. So they always get the full report. But oftentimes you learn your clients. If you've got a client who wishes this had been an email rather than a meeting. You've got the client who wants to know every single detail and then go into the minutiae of that detail. You've got clients who just want a bird's eye view. Like, you get to understand your client. So as time goes on, you understand, I literally have 10 minutes of his time and he's going to want to know this, 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 and this. And so it's kind of the same with anything in life. You just learn the pattern and you understand like what is important to them. And then you can just narrow it down and hone in on what they want. And again, if they've given you a specific task or a specific challenge, obviously you're going to report on that. But even some of our longer term clients, they don't even necessarily want the Zoom call anymore because we've gone through the PDF so many times with them. They know exactly what each page shows and they know what they're looking for. And they'll be like, no, just email it to me. So it's always in the beginning that it feels like it's a lot more in depth. And then, as time goes on, you must figure it out with your client.
Yeah, like you get more comfortable and there's times where like we have this, internally, like we'll not print out. I almost said print.
I'll print anything. What are you talking about?
We will, we'll make it like we'll send a PDF, or if they don't want access to like a report, like we do our own custom reporting. And if they don't want that, we're like, okay, like you don't have to have that. It's like whatever's easiest for them.
Yeah.
And there's been times where like client doesn't even show up. There's like, just keep doing what you're doing.
100%.
For like 3 months in a row, like just keep doing your thing and send us like a 3-line briefing and just get back to work.
Leave us alone. No, that's not true.
It really is like the meat and potatoes. Like, how many people came over from SEO? How did they interact? How much money did you make us?
Yeah.
How much money did SEO make the dispensary?
Yeah. And like I said, I think that always in the beginning, and because also I think it's like the beginning of a relationship, right? Like, clients have an expectation, or your owners, your stakeholders, whatever, have an expectation of what you're going to do for them based on conversations you had before you began. And so in the beginning, they are trying to figure out if you're doing or are able to do the things you've said you can do. They want to know your progress. Like, you're learning to trust, they're learning to trust you. And then as time goes on and you prove yourself and you prove yourself and you prove yourself, and they are seeing the fruits of your labor, the trust is there at that point. So it's a lot easier for them to like not be so involved and not have so much attention on what you're doing, because the trust is there because you've worked hard to build that trust up with them.
Yeah, exactly. It takes time to build, but I mean, once it's there and SEO does take some time to kick in, but once it does, the floodgates open. That's when it gets fun.
Yeah. And I know, speaking for us personally and what we do, we have built up relationships with some of our clients where they trust us, not just with their SEO decisions, but they'll come to us and they'll ask us our opinion on other aspects, other vendors that they may use, vendors that perhaps, we would work side by side with, or they'll come to us for our input on other things because over time we've built that trust up with them. And also we're brutally honest. Like if it's going to work and we think it's going to work, we'll say that. And if it's not, then we'll also say that. We've been pulled in on meetings with our client and then them potentially having another, contractor in for something else to do with their business. So I think one of the biggest rewards that we can have outside of obviously a client recommending us to, somebody else within the industry is the fact that they do trust us and they do ask for our advice on other aspects of what they're doing. Like that's a big compliment. That just shows the relationships that we've built with them.
Yeah. And it takes time to get there, but it is pretty cool when you can have that kind of relationship.
100%. We are very lucky with our clients, that's for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we're done. Unless you have anything else magical that you want to add.
No, the top KPIs. What you can do is to build a good report, you can open up Data Studio or Looker Studio, pardon me. You can integrate Search Console into Google Analytics and then wire it all together with Looker Studio. There was a cool, Google did release a cool template. Actually, we'll probably put it in the show notes, this template, and then you can just follow those instructions and just wire it up. But point being, have a report, get these KPIs set up, and start tracking your website, and run audits every week, and then you can really make some improvements. Get a content calendar, clean up some backlinks, and man, like you can do some serious damage once you know how you started and where you want to go and have a plan. These kinds of reports really, really help.
Oh, I will say you did just remind me of something else that we choose to include in our reports. And again, they're going to be unique to you and your clients or owners. We include what we worked on in the month leading up to the report in terms of blog posts or product descriptions or whatever it may be. And then we also include what we're going to work on for the next term. So the client has a running tally of everything that we've done. And then this is what we're going to work on in the next month. And if for some reason there's something in there that they don't want, or there's something not in there that they do want, that's the opportunity for them to be able to bring that to our attention.
Yeah. Just like a scope of work, basically, and then deliverable. Yeah. This keeps everybody on the same sheet of music.
Sure does. Speaking of music, you can find our podcast on Apple and Spotify.
Bam.
Boom. How was that for a segue?
Oh.
Man, you can pay me more. I'm not getting paid enough for this. That was creative. Anyway, Apple, Spotify, you can find us on YouTube. You can find us on LinkedIn. You can find us on Instagram. All of these places you can leave us a comment. We also like you to subscribe, to give us a review, and be nice. Oh, and ask any questions. If you have any questions, is there anything that you want us to cover? We're always open. So go find us on any of those platforms. And in the meantime, we're going to work on another episode and we'll be back next week.
Peace.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of the High Rankings Podcast, brought to you by Dispensary-Growth, the preeminent SEO agency for dispensaries. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you found value in the insight and the tips we shared. If you did, please hit that subscribe button. And if you're feeling super generous, we would love it if you left us a review. If there's a specific topic you'd like us to cover in a future episode, or if you have any questions, you can go ahead and find us on LinkedIn or YouTube. We'll see you next time.